Today I'm going to do a review of the show Ladies Who List Atlanta on the OWN network. This review is going to be episode 1, 2, and 3, all combined into one. Basically, the show starts out with an introduction to the ladies. There's 6 of them. You have Kira and Tiana, who are both luxury real estate agents. You have Kiana and Robin, who are both have their brokerage licenses. And then you have Tiffany and Crystal, who are closing attorneys. The show starts out and sort of sets the scene at a park where you have Tiffany and Tiana, and you get introduced to them as well as their children. They're on a play day in the park. It was a cute little scene where apparently Tiana is kind of really health conscious. So they show her son drinking pop for the first time. He's not very young either, so I'm surprised he has never had any kind of soda before, or pop, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, Tiffany was saying, they have very different parenting styles, and you can kind of see that a little bit. But the two of them seem to be pretty close with one another, because it also looks like their kids are pretty close with each other as well. The scene closes out with Tiffany doing a foot race with Tiana's daughter. That was a cute little scene, an introduction to the ladies and their children. So from that scene, we move into a scene with Crystal and Robin, where the two of them are meeting up. They have a client from YouTube, a couple who are now buying their first home. Looks like they're purchasing, I think this is like a $500,000 house. It looked like a really nice home, looked like a really nice couple. And I really like that they showed that scene. It was nice seeing this young couple sort of, making their way up through YouTube and sort of, making a life for themselves and their families. So, like I said, it looks like those were Robin's clients, and Crystal was the closing attorney for them. So after they close that deal, they go sit down, and this is where Robin now presents her business idea to Crystal. She just informs Crystal that she wants to go into business with Crystal along with the other real estate agents that they are introduced at the beginning of the show. And she's telling this to Crystal because eventually she's going to want Crystal to get all of these ladies together. It seems like she's looking at Crystal as this bridge between herself and these other ladies. So they sit down, and she's telling her, she wants to go into business, but Crystal then reminds Robin that she has previously expressed to her that she doesn't sort of, I guess, get along very well with other women. Robin took great offense at this, and I'm not really sure why. The first thing Robin says is, that's why she doesn't have a very good relationship with women, because they'll sort of take information that you give them and use it against you. Which, I don't think that was really a really good interpretation on Robin's end, I think, of what Crystal was saying. You're asking Crystal to go into business with you along with 4 other women. I think it's only right that Crystal bring this to your attention. She's not putting words in Robin's mouth. This is something that Robin herself has expressed in the past. And I think it's only right of her to, just sort of remind her, have you come along and evolved in the way you interact with other women, or the way you even feel about interacting with other women. And Robin expressed, I guess from her childhood with her mother, she was a single mom. It sounds like at the age of 16, she had her first child, and I think her mom put her out, and she sounds like she's kind of been on her own ever since then. And I definitely understand that would, sort of evoke these feelings of distrust in women, especially if you feel like, you can't even trust your own mom. That is going to show itself in your relationships with women throughout your life. But I don't think she was right in getting upset with Crystal for expressing that. I mean, it's to the point where, she got so offended by it that she starts yelling, and Crystal was telling her that she's triggered. She did not like that. You will see that Robin does not like being called triggered, and she does not like being called crazy, because as these episodes go along, she is called triggered several more times, and it does not go well. She's yelling, and to the point where Crystal had to remind her that we are in my office and we are still in a place of business, and you kind of need to bring it down a little bit. And as we will see moving forward, she was so loud that even Crystal's sister, who was somewhere down the hallway, somewhere else in the building, heard Robin yelling, because when she sits down with her, when Crystal sits down with her sister following this conversation with Robin and tells her sister, that Robin wants to get all of these ladies together and sort of form some sort of collaboration with them. Because like I said, she never actually told Crystal what she wants to do. She's not going to tell her until they all meet up, and she's going to tell them. But she said, asking Crystal, what happened between you and Robin? I sort of heard her in there, getting really loud, and she was saying that Robin was getting really triggered by things that she was saying, and she was, getting bothered. But I do like, as short as this scene was, I like something that Crystal's sister said, and she made a really good point. She said, if you're dealing with someone who is easily triggered, or I guess let's say offended, or whatever word you want to use, that is going to be a struggle trying to deal with someone who sort of has that about them, because you have to have the ability to sort of step back and give them time and space to cool down and get their thoughts together. And for me, it was important that she said that, because if she's trying to go into business with these four ladies and she is easily offended, triggered, or whatever, what Crystal's sister says exactly right. I don't know how they are going to get business done if Robin is so bothered by certain words. And I'm not even saying that she's not right to be bothered by them. It can sort of present itself to be a problem when you are trying to handle business, because you can't accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, or even if there is some sort of conflict or issues, it's hard to even get to the root of that conflict or issues when you're getting tied up on vocabulary or certain words that are being used. Because it seems to me like with Robin that you say the wrong word, the conversation is going left. And now forget whatever we were even talking about, because now we're stuck back here on this word that she didn't like. So that was sort of interesting to see, and a great point that her sister made. And I think it'll sort of prove itself later on as the season progresses. So next we see Kiana is in a house showing, and Crystal shows up, and Crystal now is sort of going around giving out her invitations to Robin's dinner. So she meets with Kiana, and she tells Kiana that Robin wants to meet. She has this business proposal that she wants to present to her along with the other ladies. And in this conversation, Kiana informs Crystal that her and Robin will be doing no business together until, well, she actually says she has no interest in doing any business with Robin, because Robin was not there for her in business when she needed her. So it sounds like before she even hears the proposal, she's not interested in doing anything with Robin. The issue was that, I guess because of the pandemic, when Kiana, when she was trying to start her own business up, she needed to transfer some contracts from another real estate agent or something to that effect. And because of the pandemic, a lot of offices and businesses were closed. Business was not functioning as normal, which had everything tied up. And so with that being said, she wasn't able to do what she needed to do. So she reached out to Robin and asked Robin if she could hold either 26 or 29 contracts for her, just sort of hold them so that she could progress in whatever she was trying to do. Well, Robin charged her, according to her, $500 a contract. And she just felt like that was unreasonable, and she felt like they had history because Robin, I guess, had closed on Kiana's house in the past. She dated one of Kiana's husband's friends. So she felt like they had history, and she felt comfortable reaching out to her and asking her for this help. But when she charged her that, she felt like she said she was trying to put a foot on her neck. I'm kind of conflicted in this whole contracts thing because I don't know a whole lot about real estate or anything about holding contracts, for sure. And I don't know if Kiana's expectation was that Robin would do it for free or that she wouldn't charge her as much. I wouldn't say Robin was wrong for charging her because it is business at the end of the day, friend or not. And even if Robin didn't charge her, I think it would have been right of Kiana to still give her something for doing it. And they could have agreed upon what that price was, or Kiana just could have had made in her mind that, whether I give it to her now or later, I'm going to give her something for doing this for me. I don't know how much work it entails, what it would have required of Robin to be able to do this. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I feel like she should have necessarily done it for free. And like I said, once again, I feel like it would have only been right for for Kiana to have given Robin something. What that number is, I don't know. And I've never heard Kiana express, really what her expectation was with that. It's just that she thought it was wrong for her to be charging her $500 a contract. That will later on, that conversation will come back up between the two ladies, where she will basically express how she felt about Robin charging her that money. Next, we're at another house showing. It's like for Tiana, and now we see Tiana, Kiana, Tiffany, and Kira all meet up, and they're all expressing that Robin has this business proposal that she wants them all to come together and meet about. And Kiana then, basically gives them a brief summary of what she told Crystal. She's not interested in doing business with Robin. Robin sort of played her when she reached out to her, so she's not doing business with her. The other ladies said, I guess some of them don't really know Robin very well. But in this scene at the same time, Kira expresses that because somehow Crystal's name comes up in this conversation, and she expresses how she was at, I guess, a Kanye West concert, and Crystal was there, and Crystal sort of introduced herself to Kira like she had never met Kira before. It sounds like Kira was offended because, according to Kira, the two had actually sat down and had dinner previously. I don't blame Kira. I think I would feel some type of way too. I think it's always weird when people sort of act like they never met you before, and I believe there's sometimes that people don't remember they met you, but you full blown sat across a dinner table from this lady and had dinner with her, and then when you saw her later, you introduced yourself to her as if it was the first time you'd ever met her. I can understand forgetting a name, but forgetting a whole face that you sat across the dinner table from, kind of shady and sketchy to me. And, I'd be curious to know what that was about. I don't believe that she forgot who she was. So we'll see how that plays out, because I think there's more to the story than what we know at this point. So that pretty much wrapped up, the first episode. Second episode, we sort of go over some of Kira's background. She had a house fire. She had bought a house, had only been in the house for a month. She went on vacation and got a call from a neighbor that her house was on fire. The house basically, there's really not much left to it. Pretty much burned to the ground. And then somehow, sounds like she lost everything. And for whatever reason, not long after that, her and her boyfriend of 5 years then split up. So that's sort of her story. Sounds like, I get the impression she's still, struggling with the loss of her house and the loss of all her things and the loss of this relationship. So she'll kind of touch on that again later. I mean, not a whole lot, and just, basically touch on it that she's going through things too. You get the impression that she's sort of still struggling with that. Understandable. We get introduced to Tiffany and her family even more. Not only her kids, but now we get introduced to her husband. She starts to talk about her issues in the past with mental health and how depressed she was and things she went through. She was saying she was actually so depressed. Her anxiety was so high that she was always scared something was going to happen to her when she went out the house, that she was going to die, that her husband actually quit his job and went to work with her every day. So, I mean, I thought that was, very interesting of her to share with us. She seems like she's doing better from what we can see. She did mention that she's seeing a therapist, and her therapist has helped her a lot with it. So that is definitely good to hear that she's on the up and up with her mental health. And later on, we will see that her and Robin sort of connect on this mental health thing, because Robin expresses that she's, dealing with some mental health issues as well. So following that, we come to a scene where we see Tiana is presented with some kind of real estate award. I don't remember exactly what the reward was, but she won a reward, and I guess it's very rare for a woman of color to win that award, according to her. So that was really good to see her, making strides in the real estate game. They now come to this dinner where Robin finally gets all the ladies together where she can present her business proposal. So she proposes to all the ladies that she wants to sort of build a mega real estate agency where they all can take over different parts of the Atlanta area. I guess they all sort of have their specialties and things that they seem to focus on in real estate. And with that being said, she feels like they are in a position to be able to take on the Atlanta real estate scene as a all black woman real estate agency. So I think that is a great idea. All the ladies seem to be really excited about it. It looks like they thought it was a great idea and pretty excited about it. But now we got to double back, because there are a few ladies who have some issues with Robin. So they saw fit to bring up their issues, starting with Kiana. Kiana's still upset about those contracts. So she uses this time to express, how she felt about Robin sort of leaving her hanging with these contracts. And Robin basically said, she was going through some really tough times with her mental health at the time, and she didn't really have the mental capacity to care about anyone's feelings at that time, or how anything that she did would affect someone's feelings. Kiana felt that Robin was making excuses, but I don't feel like Robin was making an excuse. I feel like she was just being honest with you, giving you a real reason or insight into what frame of mind she was in at the time. Because I feel like, okay, if Kiana's this upset and she's expressing that, she's not doing business with Robin until they get to the bottom of this, I feel like that's the kind of conversation that they are going to have in order for Kiana to be able to move forward. Like, Robin's going to have to explain where her frame of mind was at the time, because I don't feel like it's just going to be enough just to be like, oh, I don't know. I just thought $500 was enough. I mean, even if she did feel like that, I still think, whether Kiana realizes it or not, that she wants more of an explanation. I mean, she wants an apology. Okay, but I feel like the apology is going to have to come with an explanation, because, I mean, if you're talking about trying to trust her, that's the only way you're really going to know whether or not you're going to be able to trust her, is to know why she did the things that she did. But I will say, too, in that conversation, Robin did sort of come off as dismissive to Kiana. She came off as sort of dismissive to Kira as well, when Kira brings up her issue with Robin. Kira explains that both Robin and Crystal were following her on social media. Somewhere along the line, both of them unfollowed her pretty much around the same time. And she wants to know why. Robin instantly says, oh, girl, well, you know, that algorithm is so funny. Kira shut that all the way down, because Kira said, no, you're not going to tell me about no algorithm, because it takes effort to unfollow somebody. You have to literally go in and select unfollow in order to unfollow somebody. Robin really, honestly, didn't really have much to say after that. Basically, then she goes on to say, well, you know, if there's not really a whole lot of interaction with somebody, and you know, you're not interacting much, and then what's the point of keeping them around? But that's really what she probably should have said to begin with. But originally, she tried to blame it on the algorithm. I mean, she just should have been honest. But I feel like, even still, that's not the real reason. I don't think it's a coincidence for 1 second that both her and her bestie, Crystal, both unfollowed Kira around the same time. It's not a coincidence. And which is basically what Kira, you know, is trying to get to the bottom of. And Robin, furthermore, goes on after she says, you know, there's no real interaction. Then she goes, are we really talking about social media? She's like, how old are you? How, you know, we're talking about social media. But, you know, I don't like when people try to act like social media means nothing. I feel like a lot of people try to do that. And I'm not saying that social media is necessarily a true indication of someone's feelings towards you. No, I don't feel like that. But I do feel like social media can be. Not that it necessarily is, but it can be. Let's just be honest. We all in our normal everyday lives know people who make a lot of things known through social media, whether it's through their subliminal posts, their cryptic messages, unfollowing people, blocking people, you know, all of these sorts of things where they don't ever just come right out and say what it is that they think or feel, but their actions on there kind of let you know how they feel about stuff. So I don't think for 1 second that it's far-fetched for Kiara to think that these ladies have a problem with them. And let's go back to what Kiara said at that house showing, how she saw Crystal at that Kanye West concert, and Crystal acted like she never met Kiara before. Now that right there is 2 instances where she has felt kind of, you know, funny about the way Crystal's moving with her. And I think she has every right to feel that way, because I don't think it's a coincidence at all. And actually, Crystal was, it appeared she was trying to explain why she unfollowed Kira, but basically Robin was kind of, you know, going on again on Kira about how immature she was. So, you know, camera sort of moved off of Crystal explaining over to Robin, expressing how immature she felt like Kira was. Yeah, that conversation between Kira and Robin just went really left. They both took took a lot of digs at each other. She was basically calling Robin old, and Robin's calling her young and immature. So I don't really know how that relationship is going to end up panning out, because they definitely had issues just off of that conversation alone. Kiana and Robin agreed to, just sort of table the discussion and, discuss it later in private. But while Kira and Robin were having this back and forth, Crystal keeps telling Robin, calm down, you're triggered. And there she go with that word again. And, in the first scene, I was like, dang, why is she so bothered by her using the word triggered? But throughout these episodes, we've seen her continue to use the word triggered with Robin, to the point where now I'm starting to look at Crystal like, if this is really your friend and you care about her and you know how much that word is bothering her, why do you keep calling her triggered? Like, you can visibly see her getting more and more upset the more and more you tell her that she's triggered. So I empathize with Robin on that, because it's like, choose another word. I don't know what word, but you see that she don't like it. It's really bothering her. Stop calling the girl triggered. And she gets so upset to the point where she ends up just flat out smacking Crystal's hand out of the air. Like, for real, she was so far up on Crystal's face, I thought she was she did smack her hand. Now, I will say that, but I thought it was going to be more than that. And that I don't agree with, though, because as bothered as Robin was, she was dead wrong for smacking that girl's hand. Because really, Crystal was doing one of these because Robin was so far in her face like that. And I don't know, I just thought she should have put her hands on that girl. And really, she probably chose the right one, because had she put her hands probably on any one of those other ladies there, it probably would have went completely left and would have been a fight. She probably only got a pass because Crystal and Robin claim each other as best friends. As we'll see in the next episode, she basically expresses that she felt like Crystal keeps saying she's triggered. It's kind of like picking on her. Her and Robin and Tiffany have a sit down, and she's basically said she felt like it's kind of picking on her. Like she said, like, nana boo boo. Like you're triggered is what it feels like when she keeps saying that to her. And Tiffany sympathized with her, because Tiffany, as we saw before, has expressed some history with mental health issues. So she agreed, somebody keeps, using these words that are triggers for you can definitely set you off. And so, like I said, she empathized with her and was telling her, for her own sake, she has seen a therapist, and she recommends her own therapist, who she thinks would be, very helpful. I'm not sure whether or not Robin has seen a therapist or is open to seeing a therapist. I don't really remember her really giving a response to Tiffany when she suggested a therapist. So, I don't know, I guess we'll see whether she does see a therapist or if she's actually interested in seeing one moving forward. But Tiffany and Tiana both sympathized with Robin, because they had a conversation about how they felt like, it was very wrong of Crystal. And Tiana was saying that she was really sort of disappointed in Crystal, because she knows Crystal and she doesn't know Crystal to be that type of person. And she felt like she expected Crystal to be more of a mediator, as opposed to sort of agitating and instigating the situation. Because from her perspective, You know, she felt like Crystal continuing to call Robin triggered and continuing to call Robin out on stuff, I guess not really reflective of a good friend and not reflective of of the person that she knows Crystal to be. But from Crystal's perspective, we see Crystal sit down with a therapist following that incident, where she basically tells the therapist what happened between herself and Robin. And she expressed that, you know, the more and more it seems like that she said triggered, that Robin got upset. And she was kind of surprised. And I don't really know why she was so surprised, because we had already seen at least two scenes prior to that one where Robin went off on her about calling her triggered and using that word. All I can say is it looks like maybe she just didn't really take her very serious when she said it. And she should have. And I don't think she really understood to the extent, it seems like, that word was sort of triggering or hurting Robin's feelings. Because, like, she tells the therapist that, you know, she doesn't really know where to go from here. She says she herself definitely feels like she's owed an apology, because Robin did hit her. Now, I will say Robin owes her an apology for sure. And she said, you know, she wasn't trying to attack Robin. It's just that in the situation of all these women are arguing, she's closest to Robin. Her and Robin are best friends. She felt like she would have had more influence on Robin by addressing Robin and trying to calm her down, as opposed to trying to address the other women. Which I get that. You know, if you got people arguing who and you don't really know everybody, or you are definitely a lot closer to one person as opposed to other people, you're probably going to try to get that person under control and try to calm them, because you might be more effective in trying to calm them. But on the other hand, I can see through Robin's lens where she could feel attacked by all these women coming at her, and then now Crystal is coming at her telling her to calm down. She feels like everybody's making her to be the problem. So I get it. I think, you know, really they just gonna have to sit down and have a serious conversation and take each other seriously. And I think they'll be able to work past it as long as Crystal can stop using certain words with Robin, and as long as Robin can maybe try not to be so easily offended, because like Crystal said, she underestimated maybe to the extent of how much hurt Robin has endured in her past. And Robin expressed that she feels like Crystal isn't completely aware, because maybe she hasn't completely opened up and let her know how, I guess, sensitive that she really is to certain things. So to me, it sounds like they just kind of really need to have an open, honest, respectable conversation about, you know, both of their feelings on things and boundaries. That is what the therapist said. They need to establish some boundaries, and it sounds like they do. But I really hope, for Robin's sake, that, you know, she does see a therapist if she's not already seeing one, because unfortunately you can't control what other people say to you. And with that being said, she's going to have to find a way to not let people's words have the kind of power over her that they had. Because when I say how hot she was about Crystal calling her triggered and her slapping her hand out the air, you know, like you would have think she cussed out, you would have think she cussed her mama, and her kids out the way that she was in Crystal's face. And it's just unfortunate, you know, You don't want to ever be in a position where you allow someone to have that kind of power over you, especially off of some words, as even as offensive as they are. Because at the end of the day, you run into the right person, you're the only one that's going to be on the losing end of that. So, but we will see what's coming up in episode 4. That concludes my review of Ladies Who List Atlanta, episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'll see you next week.